Last time on Powerless. Like Kai, Paeyden woke up in the middle of a woods and got everything she needed handed to her, including a bow, because she's dollar store Katniss. She fought with Ace, who has illusion powers, and she escaped with an injury. Paeyden stumbled into Kai's camp so he could tend her wounds and get all gushy over her. Much cliché banter and healing of injuries followed. Paeyden and Kai fought some plot wolves who showed up for an action scene. And they shared both of their tragic backstories. There was so much banter. I don't think you understand how much of those chapters was just taken up with inane, pointless banter. Eventually, someone came into their camp and Kai had to kill them, causing Paeyden to go into a drama spiral because reasons. And now on to the episode.
Bad news, the beginning of this chapter had another audio error, so you will be listening to, unfortunately, my camera's audio. I had a lot of trouble with audio with this read-along, so bear with me.
Hello, we're going to read a chapter real quick today, probably just one. I've got a Kai chapter, Joy, chapter 31. I wanted to talk about this problem that people are having with the pacing of these death game type stories, because I've been reading a surprising amount of books lately where they have like a Hunger Games-esque style thing, but the tension is gone. And part of it is because the authors are making their characters too safe all the time. The characters never feel like they're actually at risk versus, like, say, in a Hunger Games type book that's doing a good job, the characters feel endangered a lot. But also, it's a little bit about pacing, because, like, when you endanger your characters, you can't have them endangered like the entire time. You can't have the tension up to here the whole time, or the reader will get bored because the tension's always up to here. Like, they will start to get desensitized. So it's good to have a pacing model of action and rest. Now, you don't want to have it be too rhythmical, so it's not like one chapter action, the next chapter rest, action, rest, action, rest. You don't want to do that. That's a little bit like too much. Depending on the book. Maybe there are some books that could do it. But you do want to have the action and the rest. And that's good pacing for this kind of story. Or like a lot of adventure stories, action, rest, action, rest. So you have a big dramatic thing where characters are endangered, characters are fighting for their lives, but then you need to give them a break. And that's where the characterization happens. That's where the romance can happen. That's where the friendship starts to build. And that's where also you can gain like knowledge. Like perhaps the characters go research something in the library. That counts as a rest scene. That's good. However, in a book like this, we do have a lot of rest for starters, because it's trying to be more of a romance, which again, why would you use, like, I don't understand why all these authors are using like this deadly death game as the like backdrop for their romance. It doesn't make a lot of sense because they want to have so much rest for the building romance. And when you set it up with a premise like deadly death game, people expect like the rest action balance to be more in favor of action. So we have our rest and balance in this book heavily leaning towards rest. However, it doesn't feel like it's paced correctly, because like the action feels like it comes out of nowhere and the rest is too restful. Even when characters are in a rest phase of your story, you should still feel like the plot is happening. But these two are literally just camping by a river. They're not even moving. They're just literally, they hunker down at this camp that they made, and they wait for enemies to just stumble upon their camp. And it's been chapters and chapters of that, of them just sitting around. Like, at the very least, keep them moving. Keep them having to keep changing their camp. Keep them having to leave and find different water, or, you know, something. That's what the Hunger Games did. I don't know if you noticed I keep comparing this to the Hunger Games, but that's because it did a lot of things right. And one of the things it did right is it would let the characters rest, and then it would move them. It would be like, you've rested for too long, get the fuck out of here. And it had the advantage of having like the game makers and all of that stuff just like working in its favor to be like, we can artificially move you with fire, with water, with bees, like whatever we need, we can force characters to move. And this Death Game doesn't have that. They're just literally out in the woods. But some random wolves showed up, so rather than have them just easily handle the wolf situation, have them have to abandon their camp because there's too many wolves. The wolves want to take over the water source, you know? But of course, this author doesn't want us to ever see our main characters lose either. And again, you should let your characters be wrong. You should let your characters lose. Having characters that just handle every situation is boring. And that's what these two are. So anyway, yes, the pacing feels off because it's heavy on the rest, low on the action, and when we do get action, it feels extremely random and not brought to you by the plot or the characters' actions. It's literally just somebody else serves themselves up to the main characters for an action scene. Like, what were those wolves? Where did they come from? Where did they go? Cotton Eye Joe. No hints of wolves, suddenly wolves, vicious wolves that will attack you no matter what. No questions asked. It's just vicious wolves. And then the vicious wolves are dead. And like, that's it. Action scene. It means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. They don't even go, those wolves were weirdly vicious. Like, maybe wolves don't normally attack like that. They were just like, yep, that's how wolves are. And, Nigel, be careful, buddy. You're an old man. You can't make those big jumps anymore, old man. He likes to sing in his old age. Does old Nigel. All right, so that was my gripe about the pacing. Also, I wanted to mention, because we were mentioning in the previous chapter, I think, how Paeyden is like either a super genius to rival Sherlock Holmes or dumb as a box of rocks. And I actually have a video about writing intelligent characters, so go check that one out. So just as I say that the characters have been in one place too much, they do decide to move. It's very vague. We have no reason for them to move. They just decided to do that, I guess. Off page, they decided we should move, even though their camp was very advantageous. You should probably give your characters reasons to do things, is what I'm saying. But they've been wandering around the Whispers for a while. A little girl who is one of the sights, the TV cameras in human form, runs up to them. Again, the plot just hands them things. The characters don't actually have to ever try. The plot just gives them things. So this little girl runs up and plops a little note on a stump and buggers off. This reminds me so much of in A Night in Its Moon, when the one character didn't know what to do next and a child literally appeared like an NPC to give her exposition. Give her a plot hook to be like, here you go, this is where you need to go next. So another plot hook child has shown up and given them a note. I am also starting to think that the author doesn't know any other names of trees and is not interested in finding out, because they climb another pine tree to find their way around. We keep hearing about the pine trees. Of course, the author thinks that pine trees have leaves. This is the sort of thing that I would help you catch as your developmental editor. Clearly, some professional developmental editors are not doing that. Probably they just have insane deadlines where it's like, get this book out ASAP because we can tell it's going to make us lots of money. But I would point out that you're only talking about pine trees. You seem to think that pine trees have leaves, and maybe what other kinds of trees would be in this forest. Not to mention what kinds of underbrush. Like, let's build some world here. So the note is, they say the note is cryptic, but we don't get to see the note that the little girl brings them, but it informs them that they're supposed to meet at the edge of the forest at sunrise. Okay. Also, they mention the snakes again. We just have snakes as this backdrop. We don't actually ever see the snakes. Like, what do the snakes look like? I don't know. A snake, a snake. This book does have a few like little tastes of the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes as well. Are we heading towards some sort of snake ending? Also, I am not pleased with the amount of snake slander that's going on in this book. Those snakes are probably just minding their own goddamn business, and you are tramping around in their forest. Like, she just killed a snake that was slithering behind them. They didn't even say that it was trying to attack. It was just literally slithering, minding its own business, and she stabbed it in the head with a dagger. Bring back the Songbirds and Snakes tie-in. We also have Paeyden Gray and Lucy Gray. He calls her Gray a lot, so I don't know if that was a subconscious thing on the part of the author, because I've done that. I've accidentally named characters something very similar to like an existing character because my brain kind of latched onto that sound. But also maybe it's just blatantly like I want you to associate her with Lucy Gray, so Paeyden Gray. For some reason, she thinks that they are being forced, they weren't forced, they were given a note, into one area for a bloodbath. If the people in charge of this wanted that, why did they just set them loose in the woods and then let them fart around for several days? Conveniently, again, everything is just conveniently, they hear some other contestants chatting with each other, and one of them is the kid who can teleport. So we have Andy and Jax. I don't remember what Andy can do, but I think we like her, and I think we like Jax, so they're probably gonna die. They seem to be a couple. More people are falling in love in this woods than are fighting each other in this woods. This turns out this is just like a romance. Nobody actually wanted them to come out here and fight. This is supposed to be romantic. So they're just walking together, just two couples walking together now, saying that they gotta get going if they wanna reach the edge of the woods by dawn. Nobody asks what happens if we don't show up. Are we just supposed to know? Are we just supposed to infer that something bad would happen to them if they didn't show up at the edge of the woods? That they automatically lose no matter how many armbands they collected? Like, would have loved to have seen some of that. Jack says that he only saw Blair, but he hid from her because she's so vicious. And he says, my biggest competition was just surviving in the forest alone. Would have loved to see some surviving in the forest, but our two lead characters just had the easiest time. They found rabbits, loads of rabbits to eat. They had fresh water, they had fire. They were just living the cushy life. They were literally just having a nice camping date. Again, very vague about things. They ask Andy how her time went, and she's like, well, I encountered Blair, we fought, it was epic, but I won't describe it, but I didn't get her armband. And then I also encountered Hera, who I guess can turn invisible, and honestly, I'm pro Hera because she was literally just trying to invisibly slice Andy's armband off while Andy was asleep. And she says, eventually I got her band, but it wasn't easy considering that I couldn't see her half the time. That's it. That's all the description of the fight we get. We don't even know if she hurt Hera, killed Hera, chopped her into little pieces, no idea. So I guess after you lose your armband, you're still in the game because Braxton found them and attacked them. And if he wasn't in the game, he wouldn't have attacked them. So again, it just begs the question, why not just give Kai your armband, Paeyden? Because you're still in the game. You don't have to leave. You're still in the game even if you don't have your armband. Also, if you're still in the game even without your armband on your arm, take the damn thing off and put it in your pocket or hide it. Hide it somewhere in the forest so even if someone defeats you, they don't get your armband or your stash of armbands. I've got the elite strats here. It was never mentioned, rules of this game were never mentioned. And so I'm gonna say that there are no rules and these people are just too dumb to think about that. They also defeated Ace off page. He's the one that Paeyden shot with an arrow and they took his armband. So a lot of the competition has been dealt with. Hera and Ace now don't have armbands and maybe Ace is dead. I don't know. I don't know if Hera's dead. Oh, and Braxton, but his armband was already taken. Don't know if he's dead. He was just taken down. No idea what that means. Did he just faint like a Pokemon? So of course they get to the tree line exactly on time because even though they had no idea where they were, also they were perfectly lined up to get to the tree line exactly at dawn. And they get there and there's a whole bunch of audience waiting, which surprises Kai for some reason. Oh, also, I forgot whose point of view we were reading in several times, so I'm very comfortable saying that the main character and the love interest have the same voice. I forgot that I was reading from Kai's point of view several times in this chapter already. I'm curious because Kai can feel the powers of the crowd, but he's not close enough to steal any conveniently. But he can also sense all of the sights, the video camera people around him, and I'm could he steal one of their powers and give us a first-person shooter view of his fight? Blair also steps out of the woods. If you're wondering if her hair changed color while she was out in the woods, absolutely not. Her hair color is literally the second and third word in the first sentence about her. I guess Braxton wasn't killed. He was just taken down, fainted like a Pokemon, because he's here too, also. Apparently Braxton has put together which is better odds because he just like charges at Blair to try and get her armband, even though that will only leave him with one armband and he won't win. And I don't think there's a punishment for losing, or at least it has not once been mentioned. Oh yeah, Andy can transform into animals and she turns into a wolf, and I'm like, why not try to tie that into the wolves that attacked them before? Like maybe she could also speak to wolves and she found a pack of wolves and told them to attack the main characters, but no, I think those were just wolves. Hera is also here, and they're just gonna start fighting each other, I guess. Ace is also here. Only one person died in this game, I guess. So Ace is like standing away from this, just kind of watching, and Kai decides that he's gonna go after Ace. I was like, why? Ace doesn't have an armband, but then I remembered, oh yeah, Ace hurt the girl, and so he has to pay, because one of our fantasies in these books is that the guy goes like hyper vengeful against the person who has hurt his girlfriend. Ace keeps pulling this spear out of his own ass. The spear was not mentioned again, but as Kai like charges over to fight him, Ace casts a illusion of a stone wall in front of Kai, and then something stabs Kai, and when he steps through the stone wall knowing that it's an illusion, he sees that Ace has stabbed him with his spear. And I'm like, please mention that he has this weapon before he fucking uses it. A spear is very noticeable. And my audio just crashed again. Sorry about the crash. Again, of course, it's most of the way through the chapter. So yeah, he fights with Ace. They use their various powers. He uses other people's powers, not as well as I feel like he could, but honestly, this particular fight was maybe one of the better written ones, mostly because they're using powers. The author can't fall back onto his right hand and left knee and, you know, all of her like minute blow by blow details. So it was a much more engaging fight. Of course, we have Ace using his illusion powers, and in the end, Kai got Ace's spear somehow. He was surrounded by more of Ace's Naruto clones when all of a sudden they all disappeared and just regular Ace was there, and he was like, aha, and is not very smart, but I guess it's the middle of a fight, but he threw the spear at totally really Ace. And of course it wasn't really him. It was an illusion that he had put over Jax, because we all knew Jax was gonna die. Jax had "I die for the pathos" written all over him. And that's the end of the chapter, is Kai realizing that he has speared his buddy, his brother. Again, would have loved to feel that relationship a little bit more. But obviously, it was mostly just built up so that we would feel sad when he dies, except I don't. That's the end of that chapter. I'm going to go do something else today. Sorry again about my camera audio. Hopefully, I have solved that now, and we will not be having more of those errors.
Get used to disappointment.
We shall see. Thanks for joining me. Hello, and welcome back. We are back for another chapter real quick today. I might do 2 chapters today because that one's really short, although the next one is quite long. So we'll see, but this one's really short. It's probably just Kai freaking out because he accidentally killed that one character that we don't really know or care about. This is one way that this book definitely feels more like Fourth Wing, in that we are introduced to characters and we're supposed to care when they die later, even though they don't matter. Also, I keep meaning to point out that Paeyden has not thought about her friend at all the entire time that she's been here. And like, I get it at first why her friend would not come up in her thoughts, because she's like supposedly in this super dangerous death arena, woods, whatever. But after she was all comfortable and just enjoying lounging around in Kai's camp, she might have thought about her friend again. Her friend literally just showed up to make her a pretty dress and then disappeared again as though she never existed. I forgot the friend, basically, until this dude came along to be killed, and I was like, oh yeah, we had a disposable friend at the beginning. So somehow Kai is just very fast. He threw the spear into this kid, but suddenly he is there to catch this guy and lower him gently to the ground. I'm gonna assume that somebody here has super speed and he borrowed their ability. I have no memory of what abilities everyone here has, except for like a couple of them can duplicate themselves. If I was the author, I maybe would have given somebody different powers so that you don't have two characters who can use duplicates of themselves. Granted, I think one of them now is dead. I can't keep track of these people or what their powers are, honestly, because I don't care. Okay, and also, correction. This is a mistake on my part, a me mistake. From the previous chapter, I said that Kai threw the spear at this kid. It was actually his throwing star. So he threw his throwing star with such force into this kid's chest that he is now actively dying. That is impressive that you did that. Spear, yeah, sure, that's like pretty death-causing, but the throwing star? Damn. I legitimately hate it at this point when these characters that are supposed to be so dark and brooding and everything are like, I'm a monster, no one will ever understand me, I'm a monster. Because, like, I keep seeing it lately, and it doesn't work. Because it feels like you're just trying to force this opinion of them onto us. Like, you should see them as a monster because of the dark things that they do. Or you should be like, oh no, baby, you're not a monster. But, like, it feels like you're trying to force me to have an opinion about these characters instead of them, like, actually genuinely thinking of themselves as, like, evil. The authors in many of the books that I have read have not successfully set it up where I buy that the character thinking of themselves as a monster is anything except a manipulation tactic to get me to feel about them a certain way. Also, luckily, no one's attacking him as he's sitting here having this whole death moment with this kid we don't care about. These characters are not smart. If I was him, and I wasn't, maybe he's freaking out too much. Maybe we give him the benefit of the doubt, he's freaking out too much. But if he was clever, he would grab this kid up, just scoop him into his manly arms, and run towards the crowd, because somebody in the crowd might be a healer. And if he can grab that healer's ability, he can save this kid that he's really upset is dying. That's what I would do. Just like, run and hope, because the kid isn't dead yet. He's not dead yet. We're having a tragic death scene. For some reason, Ace is like the final boss, because like he looks around and he can't see Ace anymore, but he hears him laughing, like mockingly laughing from somewhere. And I'm just like, why is this guy the final boss? What? This dude whose only personality trait is that he's haughty. If you're gonna make this guy the final boss, then you need to set him up better to be something besides just kind of a brat earlier in the story. Oh, he tries my plan. Okay, good. Good for you, guy. He tries my plan. It takes him a little bit longer than one would like, but he realizes that there might be a healer in the crowd, and so he scoops the kid up and starts to run. So hey, he thinks of it eventually, and he gets points for that. I love how the author just throws this line in, just in case you're questioning how he knows how to do this. I recall learning to mend each wound my father inflicted on me as a boy, and I pushed that power into the boy beneath me. We don't need to know when he learned to use a healer's powers. He seems to be able to just use other people's powers without needing to practice them. So we don't need this like line thrown in about how, oh yeah, I totally practiced this when my father was torturing me. I think Jax is properly dead though. I think he died on the way. Oh, never mind. I spoke too soon. I guess he's fucking alive. We didn't even kill him for the pathos. He's just severely injured for the pathos.
I have a theory that in the original draft, Jax was killed because he doesn't really serve any purpose for the rest of this book. But I'll tell you later why I think that the editor may have asked the author to make it so Jax wasn't killed, because reasons.
Also, it is super nice of everyone who is in the battle happening right now to just let him grab this kid and run to the crowd without any interference whatsoever. I'm certain when we get to Paeyden's point of view, we will find out what she's been doing this entire time. And then conveniently, again, everything I say about this book is conveniently, the sun has fully risen. That means that the trials are over. So all he did in these trials is accidentally stab a friend of his, realize, like, just in the nick of time that he should do something about it, and then the trials are over. I hope Paeyden's is cooler. Because he fought one guy and didn't win, so yeah. All right, we'll pop back with Paeyden's chapter here. All right, we're back with Paeyden. This is a longer chapter, so hopefully my audio will not crap out on me. Hopefully I got that solved. Chapter 33 with Paeyden. Whoop, Look how much book is left. So we don't even, I'm so mad. We don't even get her point of view of the fight. What was she doing the entire time? It just cuts to them being in the bowl. The bowl is packed to the brim with buzzing aliens, bubbling over with excitement. It's been 3 days since the final fight. What the fuck happened? Oh my god, I'm so mad. Like, we're getting the barest bones summary of what Paeyden was doing that entire fight. But, like, what was anyone doing that entire fight? Because apparently they just totally let Kai do whatever the fuck he wanted. But apparently Paeyden went up against Blair and got some injuries that are, like, already healed. And that's all we find out. She claims that everybody just, like, wants to keep fighting, that they're all, like, still super keyed up and ready to, like, murder each other. But the only ones who actually wanted to do murder are Kai, who specifically wants to murder Ace, who specifically is an asshole, and Blair, who also is an asshole. The other ones, I think, were just, like, pretty friendly. Well, there was that guy, Braxton or whatever, but honestly, I think after the fight was over, he could be convinced to stop, because I think he just was really mad that his armband got taken. Ooh, maybe. We're getting a hint that maybe that wasn't all of the trial, because they're called the Purging Trials, plural. So now it's being hinted that that was just, the whole boring thing in the woods was just part 1. So maybe more of this book will actually be taken up with exciting things.
Get used to disappointment.
Especially since our couple has coupled. They are very coupley, they are much in love. We had a whole lot of that, whole lot of romantic scenes. We don't need to keep doing that, but I suspect that we probably will. She's watching now, they're watching all of the instant replays, the exciting parts, which there aren't many of because, as I remind you, most of this was pretty boring. It would be, like, there would be, like, 2 exciting parts if we weren't getting little hints of what the other competitors were up to. But also, she's watching the scene where she, like, collapses into Kai's arms and you know, she's realizing for the first time somehow, this girl is not very smart, that he's, like, looking at her affectionately, and she's like, I didn't realize that he cared. And I'm like, okay. There's a certain point where you cannot stretch this trope any further of the girl being oblivious to how much the guy cares. Like, and I thought we had reached that point before now. I thought that she had figured out at some point in the woods that he did like her, but apparently no. We were supposed to believe that she was just still oblivious that entire time. Of course, the crowd is loving their love story, again, a la Hunger Games. They're the it couple.
This goes absolutely nowhere, by the way. The author only did it because Hunger Games did it. As in much of this book, you can just say Hunger Games did it as the reason that the author does anything.
They cut to the dancing scene, and she says, the crowd hollering with delight, I can't say I blame them. Too much bloodshed can get boring. Too much bloodshed? There was, like, okay. There was not enough bloodshed. If I was this crowd, I'd be like, can we, like, have some more bloodshed? Like, even if you tell us that other people are fighting each other, we cut to, like, little snippets of those scenes. Not enough, because we the readers sat around through so much banter. Oh, they even have a hand signal, just like Hunger Games. It's not this. They apparently, let me see, presses their pointer and middle fingers together and hover the symbol over their hearts. So pointer and middle fingers together, like this? Like, what are we doing? What is pointer and middle fingers together? Pointer and middle. Is it just, but over their hearts? Because she says it's a symbol of a diamond. So, like, are they like, what does this look like? I don't know. I can't do it. Whatever it is, I'm not able to picture it well. Man, it sucks that poor Hera didn't get a free bow and arrow given to her, because we find out how she dies. And she's the one who can turn invisible, and when she turns invisible, whatever weapon she's holding is also invisible. So apparently she was fighting Braxton, and she was stabbing him with her invisible knife, but he managed to grab her in that process and then stab, just, like, blindly at her and kill her. And I'm like, if she had had any longer weapon than that, it would have worked out so much better for her. Even a sword, where he could have grabbed at it and would have only just gotten the blade and cut himself. And if she'd had a bow and arrow, oh my god, she would have been deadly. But apparently all she had was a knife, because these games are rigged in favor of our main characters. This book knew that she wasn't a main character, so she gets a dagger. Andy finished first with 3 armbands, and then Kai has 2 and Paeyden has 2, so they are tied for second place. And apparently people are supposed to vote now? This is so confusing. Nothing is explained beforehand.
What are the rules? What are the rules? What are the rules? What are the rules?
She says, I hate feeling so helpless, so powerless, so ordinary. Since when? Like, she never thinks about the fact that she doesn't have powers. Like, every now and then she has to pretend that she does, and then she might think about that, but that's just in the context of, okay, well, here's how I pretend I have powers. This girl is not sitting around thinking about how she doesn't have powers and how weak she is, except for right now. And then we have a scene break. So everybody voted. We don't know how that went. Scene break. We cut to Paeyden coming back to her room from dinner. Apparently they're all still just like living in the castle, so I'm assuming that the games are going to go on. It's giving a little bit like a prolonged version of what happened in the Savior series, honestly. Kit has found her, so we can continue this love triangle that isn't really a love triangle. So has she been exploring or has she not? Because Kit is like, come with me, tee-hee-hee, take you somewhere fun. And he starts to lead her, and she says that she's starting to get familiar with the main passages, but she doesn't know her way around, like, the smaller passages. And I'm like, but you told us before that you've totally been exploring this place the whole time. He takes her to the gardens. She was just in the woods, literally just in the woods. But she says, living in the slums, surrounded by dreary alleys and dull colors, I've nearly forgotten how bright the world can be. You were just in the woods 3 days ago. But I guess those plants didn't count. I will forgive the fact that we are not being specific about what kind of flowers are out here, because she grew up in the city and probably wouldn't know the names of these flowers. That I can forgive, but I suspect that it's just laziness on the author's part. Like, if we were in Kit's point of view, and he knew the names of these flowers, or he would logically know the names of these flowers, we probably still wouldn't get the names of these flowers, because this author is so lazy about describing things. It's like she's allergic to Google. Just Google! Also, this is after dinner, but apparently it's still very bright out here. Like, she's taking in all of the colors and almost blinded by them. So presumably, there's still a lot of daylight going on. They're having their own version of banter, which is different because Kit likes her and openly likes her, versus Kai, who's all like, meh, meh, meh. My banter is as though I don't like you, even though we all know that I like you. But she, like, quips back at him, and then she's like, oh no, that's right, he's the future king and he could have my head chopped off. And I'm like, bitch, what about any of your interactions has made you think that he could have your head chopped off? What about your boyfriend, who, if he found out that you don't have powers, would be obligated to murder you? Zero thoughts about that. She's decided suddenly that she is an activist, because all of a sudden she's like, the purging was bad. Your father had a whole bunch of people killed or chased away into the deadly desert. And the purging trials are to celebrate that. And so you should really think about that, Kit. Again, she has not thought about anyone else except for herself and Kai for a very long time. And even before that, she wasn't thinking about anybody else. She was just thinking about herself. But now all of a sudden she's deeply concerned with the plight of all of the people who were killed in the purging trials and continue to be killed. She is finally, for no reason, but hey, at least she's finally getting to a point where she might find out if Kit actually intends to rule like his father. And it seems like Kit believes that people who don't have powers have an illness. So maybe that's why, like, he'll be willing to rule like his father, is he legitimately thinks that they have a dangerous disease. Like, everything we've seen about Kit so far, he seems like a very, very reasonable person who would listen to logic and doesn't want to hurt people. But maybe he does. Maybe he's been hiding it really well and she just hasn't noticed. Which would be embarrassing because she's supposed to be a psychic.
This whole thing about people who don't have powers are diseased is brought up like a couple of times, like really briefly within the book. And it's the king's propaganda to give him a reason to genocide people, because the king doesn't really believe that. He just doesn't want people without powers to water down his precious elite bloodline. So they give the excuse that people who don't have powers have a deadly virus or whatever. Except for nobody in the world behaves like they believe that. Kai is not being like super careful when he interacts with that girl that he sent off into the desert. So clearly he doesn't believe that they have this deadly disease. Like he wasn't like, oh, don't touch me, you'll give me the disease. He acted like she was just like a normal person that he had to banish. So Kai is clearly on board with the fact that that is propaganda and it's not true. At least by his actions and his thoughts, which is what we're supposed to use to get to know a character. Their actions, their words, their thoughts. None of it implies that Kai thinks that people who don't have powers are actually diseased. And the common folk don't seem to behave that way either. Nobody freaks out like, oh my gosh, a person without powers, get away from them, they're diseased. Everybody just goes about their fucking business with the full knowledge that there might be people without powers in their midst and they don't care. So like, if you're gonna set this thing up as like this effective propaganda that's working so well, then we actually need to see it working.
Also, she keeps thinking to herself that she has to play the part of, like, the innocent, someone with powers who believes in the kingdom, but immediately she doesn't do that, and that keeps happening. She's supposed to be, like, such a good actress, except for she doesn't do it ever, and she just says whatever the fuck is on her mind. So why have her bother being like, play the part, play the part, play the part, if you're never gonna have her do that? But she's full-on scolding this boy. She is full-on scolding this boy for, like, not knowing his kingdom, not going out to check out the slums, not understanding, when she would just cradle her other boy, her poor, sweet other boy, and be like, oh, this poor child has seen so much suffering, even though Kai is the one who goes out into the kingdom and, let me check my notes, kills people. So Kit doesn't go out. And so for that, he needs to be scolded. But Kai does go out and kill people. But we should feel sorry for him because his daddy was mean. She has not had this conversation with Kai being like, hey, Kai, have you ever thought about not doing what your father says? Have you ever thought about just not torturing people? Just not going out and killing people? No, she would never have that conversation with him, but she is taking Kit to task over his suggestion that the people without powers may have some kind of disease. And also, he's taking it really well. Like, he's taking it on the chin that this random girl is just, like, shouting at him about his beliefs. So he's being all romantical, and he is like, if you will just look at me from time to time, if you will just, like, pay attention to me, I will listen to you about my kingdom. So, like, yeah, I mean, it is prefaced by the, like, you have to look at me and, like, potentially be romantic with me for me to listen to you. But, like, this guy is like, I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to hear you out about how I've been wrong my entire life. Do you think Kai would handle that this well? I feel like no. And they've moved on. They have moved on. She still doesn't ask, like, hey, do you intend to rule exactly the same way as your father does? She's just never going to ask that. She thinks that she's totally been lying and deceiving this entire time, pretending to partner up with Kai to get the people's attention. Since when? Where was that? Can we see that? Can you point out to me when that was happening in any of this book, please? Why does she want the people's attention? When did she want the people's attention? I am so confused by what her supposed motivations are here. Those were her motivations? No, they were not. Wrong. If I was developmentally editing this book, I would definitely point this out to the author in a much nicer way than I'm doing now, because that book would not have been published. It was published with this situation in it. And I would be like, hey, it doesn't seem like to me that that's what she actually thought she was doing the entire time. Could you maybe go back and put it in there that she thinks that's what she's doing, and also let us know why she would want the people's attention? Your setup is as important, if not more important, than your payoff. So Kit is fully just, like, willing to do whatever she says. She sits by a fountain, and it's full of shillings where people have made wishes, and she says, this money could feed a lot of people. Instead, it's sitting in here useless in a fountain. And Kit immediately goes, done. I'm going to have it removed from this fountain. I'm going to have it distributed to the people. She has this man eating out of her hand. She could do anything at this point. Will she realize it? Probably not. But also, this should be a very clear hint to her that he's probably not going to be a king like his dad, because he seems very willing to listen. But she's probably going to have to break his heart because she likes Kai better for some reason, even though Kai has never even apologized or even thought about apologizing for the fact that if he knew that she didn't have powers, he would kill her. And then they have a little splashy splash, adorable fight in the fountain. And the next chapter's with Paeyden as well, and we will stop for today, though, because I gotta go do work. I'll see you all for the next chapter. Hello, we're back for another chapter. It is a dreary day outside. Also, I've been having some free-floating anxiety today, because I don't know if you know this, but I have anxiety. But I've decided what I'm gonna do about it is read a terrible book. That is certain to focus all of my energy right into one place that is not thinking about bad things. So let's go. Just the only bad thing that I will be thinking about is this. Let's go. We're with Paeyden, chapter 34. So we're back in Loot for some reason. It's nighttime and she's going to find the resistance. I guess this is a thing that she cares about. Totally. A thing that she deeply cares about. And yes, she says it wasn't hard to slip out of the palace. And I believe her because as we've seen, she had one guard that stopped guarding her after a while. And it's super easy to break into the palace. So I'm assuming it's also super easy to break out. I imagine they have zero security in this palace. So nothing of note happens. She escapes from the palace off page. She crosses town off page. We just get that summarized. Both of those things are just summarized in the first couple of paragraphs. And she is at the door. Both of those things might have been fun to watch her do. Why she's doing this now and why she cares so much, because we never see her care about this, except for a very, very sparsely. She'll sometimes be like, the resistance. I see. Oh my goodness. I would have cut this whole subplot out of the book, honestly, and I would have refocused it a lot on the games. If you're going to do a Hunger Games ripoff, do it all the way and get rid of this weird side plot that only comes up sometimes. I know we're probably setting up more infrastructure for the second book, which is probably going to deal a lot more with these rebels and this rebellion, but I would just maybe hint at it at the end of this book, kind of like the Hunger Games did it, instead of this trying to be very, very clumsily inserted into this book. Also, she picks the lock with her father's dagger, and I don't think that's how you pick locks. I'm not a lock-picking expert, but I just don't think that you just, stick a dagger in there and then lock is picked. I guess the house has just been abandoned. At the very beginning of the book, she made it sound like someone else was in the house. Her old home was across town and being lived in and people were eating dinner, but she wasn't in there anymore. I'm not going to go back and try to find it again because I don't know exactly where that is in the beginning, but that's what it seemed like. I remember it seemed like that, and it was very confusing to me because I thought that she was saying that her family was still alive and she had been estranged or something. But no, but now it is a completely abandoned house for some reason. They just left this house abandoned and nobody took up living in it. Why wouldn't somebody take up living in it? What is this world's thoughts about abandoned homes and living in them? Could she not have started squatting in this home? Who owns this home? How does home ownership work in this world? Things that I don't need to really know, but I'm curious about because nobody's in here and everything is in exactly the same place as she left it, and there's cobwebs. Well, this is random, but okay. She goes in, it's all cobwebby, and then somebody says the classic line, well. And she turns around, and it's her guard, Lenny.
Please don't tell anyone how I live.
Is he here because this was a trap set for her? Because they think she's part of the resistance for some reason? Or is Lenny part of the resistance? We'll have to read on and find out. Okay, I'm giving this Everyone Praises the MC. Lenny, he's like, hey, we can talk, but you have to put down the dagger because she's ready to throw a dagger at him. And she does. And he's like, whew, to her face. He's like, oh, thank God, because I know you can kick my ass. And I'm like, all right. It's a different kind of Everyone Praises the MC. They're not telling her that she's the special, but people are going out of their way in this book to tell her, how badass she is and how she could definitely kick all of their asses. Also, Lenny has the exact same personality as Kai and Kit. They are bantering in exactly the same way. What is a leaning bookcase? It says Lenny walks up to the leaning bookcase in the corner of the room. Is it a bookcase that is literally just on its side? Or is a leaning bookcase a type of bookcase? She says that it's still covered in books. So, like, it can't be leaning so much that the books have fallen off. But maybe a leaning bookcase is a type of bookcase. Comment below. I'm not interested enough to try and look it up. Of course, the bookcase has the secret lever that opens the secret door. We're walking. So obviously they go down into a secret tunnel, and there's no lights on the stairs down, and she complains about it, and then somebody in the darkness says, I can help with that, and I assumed that magic was going to be employed, but no, someone just flicks on a light switch, which then makes me ask, why isn't there a light switch at the top of the stairs? Why do you have to go all the way down into the darkness? For quite some time, it seems like, before there's a light switch. That seems like a hazard. I mean, if you're gonna go through all the trouble of building this clandestine secret trapdoor room, put lights at the top of the stairs, right? Whatever you're picturing for a secret rebel grotto hideout, you're probably right. There's what little we get described. There's some chairs in a circle and like lots of papers plastered and maps plastered all over the walls. Cots and more messy papers on tables and stuff. This is such an odd way to say it. She says, I immediately recognize as the boy I stole from, the same one from the ball. And then she says, the male to his right is older. The male? You mean the man? The man to his right? Because, like, you called him a boy. Why are we switching to the male to his right? It makes it sound like you're going to say the male gorilla or something. Like, what? The man. She also sees a girl who looks just like the man, and Sherlock Holmes, that she is, brilliantly deduces that this is probably his daughter. Oh, the girl who turned on the light is wearing a tunic. A tunic. This is the first indication of anything other than, like, the most modern of clothing. Like, I expect everyone down here to be wearing jeans and t-shirts, or maybe sleeveless shirts. But she's wearing an orange tunic, of all things. They're all being very friendly to her. Apparently they've decided that they like her for some reason. They're just like, when you stole that note, we expected you'd be here eventually. And they seem to be completely down with the fact that she is. Oh, there's some more banter going on, and it is cringe. So they all go sit in the circle of chairs, and it feels like they're about to have an AA meeting. Hope we get a welcome to the resistance. Wasn't that in something else? I feel like that was in something else, or maybe several of this type of book. I should have had welcome to the resistance on my bingo card, honestly. We have a mirror! Oh my god, we have a mirror. Was welcome to the resistance from the Silly Dragon book? Because there's a mirror in the Silly Dragon book too. Oh, ooh. Did the author of this book have a chance to read Fourth Wing before she wrote this?
This book is the literary equivalent of, hey, let me copy your homework. Don't worry, I'll change enough things that people won't be able to tell.
So we do have one of the girls saying, I'm surprised you survived the first trial, which implies to me that there will be more trials. Thank God, because if the rest of this book was just going to be silly rebellion shit, I was going to just have to bail. I wouldn't really do that to you. But, oh my goodness. I mean, they did a pretty poor job with the first part being like a trial, because mostly it was just hanging out in the woods and being romantic. And also, like, we did so much hanging out in the woods and being romantic that we don't need more in, like, future trials. I almost feel like they should have just had one trial, one Hunger Games, instead of splitting it up. Because, yeah, I feel like the pacing of this is all over the place. So the only man here, like, there's a boy, and then there's two women, and then there's the male. He's explaining things, and he says that he was very special to her father, which I take to mean that they were lovers, but probably not. He says that your father kept me a secret, just like he kept the resistance a secret from you. Why? Who fucking knows? So her dad, of course, I mean, we saw this coming, was the leader of the resistance. Of course he was. But he didn't tell her, and the resistance didn't seek her out. They just let her keep living in the slums in poverty without a home, I guess. And also, they kept the house But that still begs the question of, like, how did they keep squatters from moving in? How did they keep people from, like, coming to investigate this abandoned house in a city where there seems to be a housing shortage? Mira, one of the girls here, is the only one with any sense because she doesn't trust our main character, and everybody else is just like, well, she's the daughter of the leader of the resistance. Even though she, up until very recently, didn't even know the resistance existed, we implicitly trust her. Also, she has been seen wandering around with both of the children of the king who we are trying to resist. But this is fine, I guess. Just revealing all of this to her is fine. Because her dad was our leader, and that means that she could never, ever, be swayed to a different point of view. It is giving Friends of Red Jenny, though, because the dude is like, even I don't quite know who all of our members are at this point. Which does give the author the out of being able to have members of the resistance anywhere that she needs to. She can just pull a member of the resistance out of her ass. So Lenny mentions that ordinaries are still killed constantly, and that does not make Paeyden go, yes, by my boyfriend, they are killed constantly. So they talk for a little while about how they, as ordinaries, pass as people who have powers, which is potentially interesting commentary. In many books, magic is used as a metaphor for queerness. Not always, obviously, but in many books it is. And in this book, it could almost be seen maybe even as a metaphor for transness in like this one very specific place where they're talking about passing, teaching each other how to pass, talking about how she was so lucky to have her father training her so she could pass. But I don't know if that was intentional on the author's part, and again, it is kind of just coming out of nowhere, so even if it was, it's not like a major overall theme of the book, really. Do I want to give her enough credit that she's trying to have like actual themes like that in this book? I don't know. Like, part of me does want to give her that credit. Part of me wants to be like, okay, she's trying for something. And then part of me looks at how absolutely derivative this book is. And I'm like, if she's having that idea, I feel like it might be accidental because she borrowed it from someone else who actually knew that they were doing it. And I don't know which. So you can make your own decisions. Comment below and let me know. So again, we bypass a moment for the main character to process the fact that her romantic interest is a killer who would kill people like her, because they talk about the silencer that she took down and is now, as far as we know, still being held in the dungeons of the palace. His name is Callum, I think they said. Micah. His name is Micah. Someone else's name is Callum. His name is Micah, and he was trying to get revenge on Kai because Kai killed someone close to him, which would be an awesome moment for Paeyden to be like, oh yes, that's right. Kai kills people for being ordinary. But she doesn't. Again, her brain just slips right past that idea every time. Again, conveniently, so convenient. None of them have any hard feelings towards her for getting Micah captured, tortured, and probably inevitably killed. They're just like, yeah, he was like an impulsive asshole, so we're like glad he's dead. It totally wasn't your fault that you got him captured, Paeyden. It's okay. Don't feel bad, baby. And then they just move on with the conversation. Oh my god. One thing I have noticed about a lot of these books is they are allergic to letting the main character feel bad for something that they actually did. The characters are allowed to feel bad for something that they didn't do, that they couldn't help, that they had no control over. But if it's something that they actually did, they're not supposed to feel bad about it for any length of time. Everyone will forgive them immediately. So he just tells her what the resistance is doing, which is obvious, but he's like, we are trying to make it so that we can just live in peace alongside the elites and people stop killing us. And she's like, oh my god, that's my goal too. I really want to join this resistance. Oh my god. All right, fine. She's just always been her goal, and she really wants to join the resistance, and she will not think at all about how she's been palling around with the man who kills these people. His only job, his main job, his one job in the whole world is to kill these people. Also, apparently the attack on the ball was a mistake, which I don't like that plot point at all. Like, I don't like that we seem to be setting up the rebellion as extremely bumbling. They were just trying to explore the castle. They had just infiltrated, and maybe they were trying to get their guy out. Maybe they were trying to explore. They don't say. But they got caught, and so they all had bombs on their person. Like, that's just a thing that they carry around. And I'm like, I hate this. It could have been a coordinated bombing of the castle, and instead, it was just bumblefucking. Oopsie daisy, we've been caught. Bomb. Oh, and so we don't blame any of our good guys, even for as little control as they apparently had in that situation. It was one of the elites that accidentally set off one of the bombs first. So our good guys really did nothing. And like, I feel like the author, or maybe the publishers encouraged her to do this, is trying to make it so that the rebels never did any sort of terrorist activities. But sometimes, maybe you do have to do that if you're under the rule of an evil king who tries to kill you on the regular. Maybe this is showing my hand, but I think it's okay to do terrorism specifically against fantasy Hitler. Maybe people disagree with me, but I think that is a time when that is an okay thing to do, and it's okay to have these characters have done that intentionally. So apparently that stupid room that can only be accessed via a trapdoor in the ceiling is a plot point. Okay. It's a very poor plot point in my opinion. I want to say bad. I'm going to say poor. But, okay. All right. Bear with me here. That room is directly below the special box where the king will be sitting to watch the trials. And there is another way to access that room besides the trapdoor, according to Lenny here. Except, they don't know where it is, 1. And 2, it has to be open from the inside. Which means that now we have a reason for Paeyden to be in the Resistance, because the next time she goes down into that very silly room, she can look for a way to open the secret door. And I hate all of this. It feels so random. Like, why is this the thing? Just why? Just big ol' Y, stamp a giant Y onto the page. So they're like, hey, we've noticed that you are friends with both of the princes, but specifically Kit, and we want you to use Kit to help us get inside, and use Kit to help you find the secret tunnel.
Secret tunnel. Secret tunnel.
And they are, again, putting a lot of faith in the fact that she's on their side. Like, we know she is because we're in her point of view, which is lucky for fucking them, because what if she wasn't, and she is just listening to all of this so she can run right back around and go tell her friends, the princes. She's completely on board for this plan. Immediately on board. This is how we're getting away with them immediately trusting her. Callum just happens to be a mind reader, so he could tell by her thoughts this entire time that she had no thoughts, head empty, about the princes, and was all just gung-ho, completely on board with the rebellion. So he's like, now that I know that you're on our side, I will totally leave your thoughts alone. Guess we're just gonna trust him that he's doing that. So now that the meeting is over, I guess, now that she's on their side and is totally 1000% on board with whatever their plan is, they're leaving, and she says, thank you, you gave me something to fight for. And that does do a good job of highlighting how we are over halfway through the book, and she has had no motivation until now. It's a long time to go without giving your main character something that they want to fight for. Yeah, that's the end of the chapter. And then we're back with Kai. Joy. What time is it? Oh, I should probably go. I got a shower and stuff today, so I might come back later tonight, or I might not. It'll depend whether you see me in this exact same outfit or not. But bye for now. Hello, we are back for a chapter. I'm hoping that I can get this one out before my memory card runs out, but it is a long-ish chapter, and we all know how much I like to talk, so let's see if we can get through this. We're with Kai, chapter 35 with Kai. Right away. If you were wondering if Kai has maybe had a change of heart about his job, about the things he likes to do over the time that he spent with Paeyden, absolutely not. The first line is that training and torturing have kept me sane over the past couple of days. Oh, dearie dear. Dear. This man is unsafe. Run, sprint away from this man. Oh, he killed the silencer that he was torturing, so that character is never gonna come back or be interesting or cool. His friends straight up disavowed him and were like, yeah, he was a loser anyway, it's okay that he was caught. The bombing was not a rescue attempt. And now he's just dead. So, yeah, again, this man is, like, I'm pretty sure an actual psychopath, because he says, though I do miss taking my anger and frustration out on him. We're well past red flags and alarm bells. We are into, like, this ship is going down. The old couple is snuggling together. The band is playing on the deck. Why are we supposed to find him attractive? Off-page, Kai has decided that he wants to learn to grab a silencer's powers as well, so that he can never be silenced again. Again, that would have been something amazing to have had him ever want at any point in this story before now, but now he's been training nonstop, trust us, with this other guy to get good at that power. He's outside hacking up a practice dummy, kind of low-key wishing it was a real human, and he spots Paeyden and Kit, and he's jealous, which I think is something else we're supposed to find extremely attractive. Don't worry though, she leaves Kit and goes to snark with him so they can flirt fight some more. I'm curious, like, if she could see into this man's head and see how casually and even joyfully he thinks about killing other people, would she still feel the same way about him? They've decided to have an archery competition, I guess, or something, because the author wanted yet another scene of them just snarking at each other romantically. We do not need more of that. We've had enough of that.
Okay, that's good. That's good. It's enough slices!
Like, I go to the author school of, like, you only really need one scene, one or two scenes of something. Like, obviously, if it's a romance book, you want more romance scenes, but you want to vary it up. You don't have the same scene over and over again. We don't need 8 million, they do some sort of martial sport and banter at each other. We are scraping the bottom of the barrel for, like, interesting things to happen in the scene. It's just an archery competition with bantering and lusting after each other. He notices that she's firing left-handed, but he knows that she's right-handed, and he thinks that is, like, intriguing and enticing. And of course, she's also a master archer, as we learned. Her father also had plenty of time to teach her to do that, in between, like, running a rebellion, being a master healer, and training his tiny daughter how to be good at literally everything. Boy, if we had not crossed off everyone praises the MC, I would have here. She's so natural, so confident, so controlled, as if the bow is nearly an extension of her arm. The arrow obeys her as she wills it to land exactly where she wants. Wow. By the way, this is the only way that she, a lowly girl, could ever beat him. At archery, the sport that girls are allowed to be good at. I can tell that nothing's going to happen this chapter, and I'm so mad about it. Like, I betcha I could skip the rest of this chapter, and I would miss nothing of any relevance. And yet, here I am, I have to read it. They're just trying to distract each other by, like, fondling each other while they're firing. But we keep having the line, their eyes crashing into each other. Not their gazes, their eyes. So now I'm just picturing them just, like, smashing their heads together over and over again. Which is hilarious for me, because that's the only thing I can enjoy about this chapter. I wish that I could be this just utterly indulgent with my books. Do you have any idea how much I want to just write chapters about my characters just being the best friends ever? But no, I have to have some kind of plot. It is just fluff. It is something that belongs in the fan fiction for this book, not actually within the book. And I am so mad that, like, if I wrote just dumb, fluffy scenes like this, it wouldn't work. It would just, it's taking up space in the book. We need to get out of there. Like, I know how this got published. This kind of book is the hot thing right now, and people never seem to get tired of it, but come on. Come on now. Yep, that's all the chapters. There's not even, like, a quick hook at the end to make us be like, ooh, something exciting is going to happen next. Literally all it is they have a flirty, sexually charged archery competition where we don't advance their romance at all. They're in the same place as they were before. We knew all of these things about them. We don't advance their characters. We don't advance the plot. There is nothing useful about this chapter. This belongs in fan fiction, not in this book. Or any book. Just get this out of here. This is garbage. And I hope that we actually have something happening in the next chapter with Paeyden. For the love of God. I'll see you then.
I'm gonna put pumpkins, man!
Okay, yeah, and David Pumpkins is
His own thing.
You know who else is their own thing? My patrons, like Marshy, Semidark, GK, Scout, K, Annika, Jen, Gay Tutter, Constantina, Lochnan-Ga, SB Boots, Martha Baggins, July, Bird Anonymous, Sarah, Cat, 78 Kilograms of Shade, Veda, Roma, Pansing Pony, Haley, Sam, Kira, Kohikaru, Mooney, Puttamancer, Kirsten, Bear, Jojo Bookish, Robin, Ursula, Caitlin, Jessica, KJ Lafone, Mufflier, Celia, Alyssa, Deborah, Afra, Melissa, Swamp Goblin Waifu, Sophia, Marween, Kit, Hidden Glade, Light Julie, Belle, Patrick, and Sophie, Callison, Shelby, Zaire, Jesper, Rennie, Scribbling Cat, Savvy, Jenny, Amanda, and Lisa. Keep being your own thing, everybody.
To do this.